every time we do this, sucker MCs wanna battle. I'm the man they love to hate, the J.R. Ewing of Seattle. Picked up the posse on 23rd and Jackson, heading for the strip. Yes, we're looking for some action. The limo's kinda crowded, the whole car was leaning back. Maharaji's watching TV with two girlies on his lap. On Martin Luther King, the set looks kinda dead. We need a new street, so posse move ahead. We all look kinda suave, the crew you can't forget. The Mix-a-Lot posse, Cole ripping up the set. My posse's on Broadway. My posse's on Broadway. Posse up. My posse's on Broadway. My posse's on Broadway.
Context of white supremacy 206. Gusty Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy. Today's date, Saturday, May 17, 2025. So I have been told. Gusty, in the middle of the 51st annual Seattle International Film Festival, once again said as often as possible, the great Frances Cress Welsing was accurate. She was accurate. She was accurate. Reading is more important than watching television, even documentaries. Absolutely. But Gus T now can say that I have gone to the Seattle Film Festival 2 consecutive years in a row and have now attended a total of 4 film festivals. So I can say, hey, I'm a veteran about this whole professional TV watching thing. Like, oh man, I know how to do it right, man. Get gussied up and go out and sit proper and take notes and ask questions and applaud it. Like, hey, been there, done that. And, you know, Seattle, outside, all over, done that. So the only thing I wanted to do, one, because, you know, this is causing such a massive disruption in the broadcast. I remember last year, first time I went to the Seattle Film Festival, and any film festival, period, I still went ahead and broadcast it. We were doing our book club on Jonestown, and we did Neutralizing Workplace Racism, and I'm running like a fool around the city and losing computer equipment along the way, and just, man, I missed out on some of the Q&As because I was running around. I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to festival correctly this time and just do it up, and then maybe you can broadcast in between, write some reviews as well, which I'll hopefully get done, and I'll update people about that as well. And also because looming, once the festival is over, like literally, as soon as it's done, Milwaukee, late May. So I had lots on my mind, a little distracted, but wow, I can only say all of the movies, and I mean all of the films, directly, indirectly, are about white supremacy, racism, and I would say more often than not, they are very, very direct in how they relate to and are discussing, grappling with the global system of white supremacy, racism. I will let folks know. I'll post online, social media, and on my blog, racism-notes.blogspot.com. I'll post, you know, what films that I saw. Same thing I did last year. I posted what films I saw. I think I did a whole podcast last year where I gave like a little synopsis, my thoughts on all 17 films that I saw. I don't think I'll have time to do that this year. At minimum, it would have to be way far down the road. And so way far down the road means like, I don't know, like June, July, sometime where the content won't be fresh anymore because of Milwaukee, and the Sade Robinson murder trial will be way more important than all of these movies. And I think I might see more than 17 films this time around because I will festival correctly. In fact, what does that mean? One of the ways that I festival correctly, not attempting to broadcast our normal schedule while at the movies, also I took advantage of having press credentials for this event, as I have for pretty much all the festivals that I have attended. You can see these films in advance if you get press credentials. That's why I would encourage non-white people, don't just be a spectator. See if you can apply and get a press pass for the festival. At worst, white people can tell you no. They reject us all the time for jobs and promotions and raises and college, all kinds of constructive things. You can just add this to the list. They wouldn't give me a press pass either. You can still pay and go, no problem, but you could at least ask. if you get the press pass, you could see some of the films, or maybe most of them, in advance. I was able to watch a lot of the films I wanted to see in advance. Even the film, matter of fact, half of the films that I saw today, I could have seen in advance. One of them I did, and the other one I could have if I wanted to. But I just, time and all that. How many movies can you really watch? Anyway, but being in it, I was able to sound. I remember last year I was so impressed or surprised, in awe mildly. There were a number of white people who had already seen the films that were playing at the festival, because they go to lots of film festivals as a part of just being classified as white and or their profession. So they'd seen these movies at other film festivals, and or they got the preview where you could see the whole film in advance. I could have done that last year, but I, didn't do it correctly. Not this year. I had already seen at least most of the films that I wanted to see. Already saw them in advance, but it's nothing like seeing them on the big screen. So just quickly go over some of what I saw today and just kind of initial thoughts from the first day of the festival. One of the things that stood out that was so massive to me, being able, I said 51 years, right? I think the American Film Institute Festival that I went to in Los Angeles, I think I went to the 38th edition of that festival. So nearly 40 years. One thing that I noticed is that, wow, these white-dominated cinema institutes, they have so much financial backing and resources. I mean, wow, they had a whole screen of lifetime platinum donors. I have no idea how much money you have to donate to be a platinum member of the Seattle International Film Festival Institute, but it has to be a massive amount. And then they had a screen for people who donate $50,000. And they had a screen for people who donate $15,000, ranges, just wow. Man, we would struggle talking about the cows and Gus T. We only been here for a measly 16 years in comparison to their 51. We would struggle to get a paragraph of folks appreciative to all the people who've invested over the years. But I mean, wow, they just had pages and pages and pages and pages. Whoa, what does it mean to be white, and the massive financial gulf between the white people and the non-white people? And certainly the Film Institute is super white dominated, as is everything else. But that was one thing that stood out. Two, last year, and I put this in my application for a press credential this year. Last year, I noted that they had a big promo. They put it on the screen along with other trailers and events that are happening when you are watching the previews in advance of your movie. And it would say, CIF is committed to anti-racism, and I wish I had taken a picture of it because it had very specific verbiage, but anti-racism and blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, wow, that's, okay. And so I said, with all the DEI activity that's been going on, I told them in my application, I am eager to see if CIF remains committed to anti-racism in the Film Institute. And so I got my press credentials, went, and they still have the placard up. I have to get the exact verbiage. The first time it flashed up on the screen, it was so quick I didn't even get to read it. And the next time I saw it still said anti-racism and I think anti-oppression, but I'll take a picture so I can get the exact verbiage next time around. So that's two. I'll give out other and I guess last one really quick. The first film that I went to today, April, film from the country Georgia, right? Europe, so-called Europe. It was a packed house for a movie that started in the early afternoon. I think I was the only black person there, and that's an observation that I had last year, and even at many of the other festivals that I've gone to. Generally, regardless of the movie, even if it's been a film with black people in it, even if it's been a movie that was made by black filmmakers, it has been overwhelmingly white audiences. Regardless, Washington State or elsewhere, it's been overwhelmingly white audiences at the festival. Again, I say, white people cannot be ignorant about racism. Neely Fuller Jr. Now, April, I said, first film that I saw today, first film I saw at the festival, film so-called country of Georgia. Now, one of the things that got me, racial classifications. You have to maybe you can look at some of the movie posters. Man, that messed with me so hard. Are these folks classified as white? Are they non-white? I don't think any of the people would be classified as black. but certainly I wasn't sure. For a number of the people, they look what they kind of swarthy, touch of the tar brush. It left me uncertain, at minimum uncertain. And then it factored into the narrative, because this movie is about someone who could be a white woman who is an OBGYN. And so she does a delivery, but the child dies in delivery. And so there's a big investigation, and the dad is furious, obviously furious, and thinks that there's been some sort of incompetence on her part or the hospital or whatever. And so this big investigation is looming, and there are all these allegations that this same white woman has been performing abortions illegally. And so there's lots of hatred and fury, and she sees herself as a mutant. Now that's why I said it really got at me, like, so is this like a white person who is having these, I don't even know what you want to call it, challenges in childbirth, and how they see themselves? Like, it really got to, like, is this a non-white person? And then looking at some of the other characters, like, it really kind of, messed with me. And I've never seen a film from the country of Georgia. I've never been to the country of Georgia, unless I'm mistaken. I think this part of the world is so-called Eastern Europe. Now that's where you start getting into some confusion. Now, white people do the classifying. Most powerful white people, they do the classifying. But that's where, at least for me as a non-white person, it can start to be some confusion. Where you get out the Caucasus region and all that, like, now are these folks white? I don't think they're Negroes, but are they white? It kind of bothered, where I just interfered with my interpretation of the film. And probably the fact that I'm ignorant about this whole region and language and everything else about it. But it wasn't, and it got lots of rave reviews. Lots of people were there to see it, and they did not seem disappointed. I'll have to ponder on it. Racial classifications are super important. Now, next film, U.S. film, Drowned Land. Now, this is a documentary. The first film was not. That was a regular, I can't say Hollywood, but I guess Georgian fictional rendering, right? So, Drowned Land, documentary. Now, this film I could have watched in advance, but I didn't. Just too much time. Not enough time, I guess, however you want to phrase it. But, man, this documentary about, in Oklahoma, non-white people, so-called Choctaw tribe members, indigenous population, how they have been fighting. One, it talks about the whole racism, white supremacy, Trail of Tears, and purging them from land, relocating them to really poor land areas of Oklahoma. And so they go over all of that, white supremacy, racism, with lots of history and pictures and, all that good stuff. But then they talk about present day in this area, where the water in Oklahoma is contaminated, and they talk about it seemed like all of it. They had a young lady who seemed like she'd be classified as white, but she's a young scientist pursuing a PhD, and she was talking about the different levels of contamination from them putting these dams up, and then they've got all these other lead and everything else, and it might even be mercury. I think that was one of the ones that they said that they do not test for, even though that's really dangerous, and who knows what else. But it seemed like they put a map up, and I had that term from Dr. Kamal Kanban, ancestor, cesspoolians, because it really looked like every river in the state of Oklahoma has been toxified to the point that the EPA says you can't swim in it, you can't drink the water, you can't go fishing in it, like it's not good for nothing except killing. Cesspoolians. But it connected all of that to the history of racism, white supremacy against the Choctaw people in this region. Now, and even folks who dialed into the cows, Victims Guaranteed Qualified, who said, hey, we should just focus on ourselves, so-called, and I guess meaning individuals classified as black, and maybe people classified as black born in this part of the world, should just focus on information, material related to what's happening with us and solving our problems. Victims Guaranteed Qualified, I very much study any and everything related to the system of white supremacy racism, because we individuals classified as black are so ignorant about white supremacy racism. Somebody said, if you don't understand racism, white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Facts. So I try to study everything about white supremacy, racism, and hey, the same fella who said that goofy phrase, Muskogee, Oklahoma, the great Neely Fuller Jr.'s place of birth, and where he resided for his formative years, childhood, and all of that. So I'm having all of that in mind as I'm watching this film about racism and white people polluting the land. But yeah, that too, obviously, if you pollute the water, but polluting the water in this region, that was kind of the major theme around this film. We will have to do a major, like, gargantuan, out of this world pause. I will know where I am in the film, but oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The short films, for people who do not know, if you don't go, to a lot of film festivals or any, they have short films, which are movies that are, you have to forgive, I'm sitting outside. I thought it was being cool because it's springtime, so I could sit outside. I didn't know that there would be such massive noise disruptions. People got to be loud with my vehicle. Anyway, so they have these shorts, right? These are not feature-length movies, the standard 90-minute or longer, not even an hour. Most of the time, these shorts are less than 20 minutes, generally speaking. I would say around 15 minutes. They can be a little bit shorter, but generally around 15 minutes. Very short, and it's not like, there's going to be more additions. Like, that's it. Just something really quick. Bang. These have been around. Gotta act a fool. Gotta act a fool. Gotta act a fool. Now, these short films, as they are called, have been around for a long time. This is not like a new invention or anything. But if you go to film festivals, sometimes they will add a short film that is somehow related to the feature film that you intended to see. And I've had that happen several times now in my film festival experience. So it's not, like, oh, okay, this is not unusual. I've had this happen before. Today, with Drowned Land, the documentary about the poisoned water in Oklahoma and the history of white supremacy, racism, Choctaw people, they had a short that I believe was called Saturn Rising. And instead of a G, it was a 9. Saturn Rising. Oh my God. Neely Fuller Jr. say contempt for gender. And even I really pay attention to how black males are presented at really festivals, period, especially SIF, since I've been to that one twice. But man, just how are black dudes portrayed in these projects? They put this Saturn Rising film up, and it's got a black dude who is wearing, I don't know, like it can't even really be described as clothes, like rags. Looks like they barely hanging on him. Patches and whole parts missing. I don't mean like ripped. I mean whole compartments missing. So he's kind of semi-nude, really long weave trailing down his head. He immediately says, I'm LGBTQ. And then he says, I'm trans. I'm queer. So he's representing for all of that. He's got the long fake nails, and they're painted a variety of colors. He's got bleached eyebrows, which really kind of distracted me throughout this short film, the bleached eyebrows. But I mean, wow. And then he's kind of calling himself dancing and gyrating and walking in slow motion in a really, I don't even know how to describe it, disjointed manner, where it looks like he has no balance, or that he has lost his balance, and maybe he's intoxicated. I don't know, but he's doing all this, and somehow he does bring in water. He's talking about the Hunters Point region, which I know people from the Catherine Massey Book Club. Hey, Hunters Point, we talked about that with Jim Jones, the zebra murders. He talks about the so-called gentrification in that area and the history of environmental racism, where during World War II they tested nuclear material in the region, and then they would dump the nuclear waste at Hunters Point. This is back when they had a lot of niggers that they allowed to live there, but they made all these renovations, like millions of dollars in renovations. Now, when I was there a few months back, and I was at a racial dislocation, Leroy got to get on, I go to Oakland or, someplace further. Anyway, but they got all these dark people, lots of black dudes who, effeminate, call themselves dancing or moving in a so-called artful manner to this music in slow motion with these so-called artful camera angles. And just what I was so like, shall I say, offended. Like, I did not sign up to see this. I would not have chosen that film. I would not have gone to see that film. I guess the tie is, since Drowned Land is talking about environmental racism, and this film is also addressing that. Like, oh, like I said, they'll do that. They'll have films that are connected, but OMGs. I did not sign up to see no black dude with bleached eyebrows saying I'm trans and I'm queer. And he did bring up systemic racism well after, and this is a short film, but still well after I'm trans and I'm queer and LGBTQ. Did you see my bleached eyebrows? We got systemic racism. And it wasn't systemic racism has compromised my ability to be a man. Since I can't be universal man, I've just, hey, you say I can't be a man, I'll take LGBTQ, because they'll throw everything else up there but man. So I'll just give me all that. LGBTQ, A plus I, try it all on, see how it feels. But wow, the contempt for gender. Appalling. Saturn Rising. With a 9 instead of a G. That's supposed to be artistic, I guess. Anyway, so back to Drowned Land, which is the film that I intended to see. So they have a portion, like I said, it's talking about the Trail of Tears and how did we get these non-white people, Choctaw in Oklahoma, to be around all this poisoned water. And they detailed that in Greenwood, Mississippi, you did have Choctaw there along with black people, and that these Choctaw, some of them, owned Negroes in Choctaw, in Greenwood, Mississippi. And they even bring in Emmett Till, and how could you not? And so they include that on the Trail of Tears, the Choctaw brought along their Negroes with them on the Trail of Tears in their resettlement to Oklahoma. OMGs, I'm so stunned. That's what I mean about you just got to study it all, because it's all related, and we're so ignorant about everything. Gus T at the top of that list when I say we is ignorant. So I get them, I said, oh man, I should ask a question about that. And as I said, I was feeling a little distracted, got Sade Robinson on my mind, got Jeff Dahmer on my mind, and Milwaukee on my mind, and messed up the scheduling for the program, just billions of things. I'm a victim of white supremacy, all this that I'm thinking. Had to sit through that solar rising and all of that. And I said, man, I think I should ask about that. That, what is the current relationship between the black people in Oklahoma and the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma, especially since they, migrated together and owned some of these folks? What's the relationship? So I will only say again, you should at least apply for a press credential for the film festival, because if you get it, you get your little VIP type badge, right? And so when they do the Q&A, if you have your badge on, at least for me, every single time that I have been in the Q&A where they ask for questions, when I put my hand up, generally I have been the very first person that they have called on, and or they will get me very quickly, without fail. Now maybe it would work even if I didn't have my badge on, but thus far, every single time when I've had my badge on, if I've wanted to participate, I get that microphone. It happened again today. And so I asked the question that I just said. What's the, relationship? Is it a quality relationship between the black people in Oklahoma that migrated with the Choctaw Nation? OMG. The filmmaker, and I just don't want to call her name out right now because I just got back from the festival, but member of the Choctaw Nation. I would, if I had just seen her, I'd say I suspect she could be white, and she might, I don't know, we have to see what she thinks. But anyway, she said, I believe it's Colin Thurston, I believe is her name, Colin Thurston. She says, I'm so glad you asked that question. She says, oh man. And I included the tensions where it's gone to court in terms of a number of times where black people have been excluded from these so-called native tribes, right? So we don't know, did black get back, right? She said, I'm so glad you asked that question. And she said, oh man, there is a gag order from the official Choctaw Nation that you cannot even discuss the Negroes in the Choctaw Nation. She said that is the thing that they get the most calls about. What about the Negroes? What about the Choctaw Negroes? We can't talk about that at all. And she said that they had segregated schools. That's just a wealth of information. She said she's working on, that is her next documentary film project, is this history of the black people who migrated, were slaves, came with them to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I mean, going to Oklahoma, Tulsa, I just said it, Black Wall Street and all that. That's Oklahoma. And Muskogee, Oklahoma, Mr. Fuller. But she said that's the next film project examining all this history. And this is something that's not even talked about. She said other tribes, they'll at least talk about this and whatever. She said there's been a gag order. It's been in place for years. You cannot say a word. I'm sitting there stunned. Then I really felt like, man, I cannot believe that. You were going to be some old lame, no-count, lazy, shiftless nobody and not even say a word. Why did you ask for the press pass if you're not going to speak up and ask no questions? You could have stayed and done, the book club or whatever. Ask, but participate and ask questions. Always ask, ask, ask. Now, because I asked that question, and they only took 3 questions. I got mine in. Get your hand up early. So they took 3 questions because they had lots of films. They were trying to get us out to get the next group of people in for their film. So I ask my question. I go outside. Another thing I say for the film festivals, if you go generally or often, the filmmakers will be right there. So you can just go outside and talk to them. I did that last year. I did that repeatedly. I did that in LA. You just sit out and talk to them, ask them questions and all that good stuff. So I go outside and I had multiple people who came up and said, oh man, Brother Gus, that was a great question. I'm so glad you asked. I thought that was the most important question to circle back to from the film. I had multiple people who came up and said that to me afterwards in the lobby. That didn't mean a thing. They didn't give me no tip. I didn't get no free popcorn. They didn't invest in the cows. I'm still a Negro on the plantation. Now, one of the co-filmmakers came over and she said, oh man, I'm so glad that you asked that question. She said, I have been researching this for 15 years. Let me tell you about some of the research that I have collected. She says, man, a lot of these folks, yes, they did have slaves, niggers, but she said they married a lot of them. And she said, I don't mean like Thomas Jefferson Ray. She said, I mean like married, official in the family, do the whole ceremony, married. Now, still, if you start as a slave, But she said, I mean, hey, we're going to get married, do it up official, all that. So she said they're part of the whole tribe and everything. She says when they get to Oklahoma, the Choctaw, they set up schools. She said some of this is happening like in the 1800s, 19th century. They're setting up schools, but they're so-called segregated, black get back. So they set up Choctaw Negro schools, and then they shut up the regular Choctaw schools for the non-Negros. She said these are great schools. She said she was able to track the history of some of these folks for decades. I think almost 100 years for some of these black, which was stunning to me. But she said she was able to go and track all of this. She said they had whole areas where some of these black people, black Choctaw members, where they relocated, black get back. So they were in a whole separate town. She was telling me the name of some of these places. Cole, someone had to write. Anyway, it was just so much information I was not even prepared for, and I had a film lingering to go to after this. It was just stunning to hear all of this. But she said they had a whole town that was like 100% Negro. I mean, nary anybody there but Negro, Choctaw Negro, apparently. And so she said this is what she's been studying, and she said that there's again, like the Choctaw Nation, they will not address any of this. Are we going to include the Negros, the history of the Negros, marrying Negros? When did we? And she said they even changed the law. She said they changed laws in the 1970s to make sure that Negros could not, the freedmen, that's what they call them, the freedmen, that they could not count as members of the Choctaw Nation. Kind of recent history, right? 1970s. Yeah. Anyway, but lots and lots of detail about all this. She said she would send me some videos that have lots more detail about the history of the black Choctaw and the history of anti-blackness against them in Oklahoma specifically. Oh man! And then the kicker. So I asked her. I said, man, I've never been to Oklahoma. I've never had any interest in going to Oklahoma, but I would love to go to Oklahoma to see like the screening of their upcoming documentary on all this anti-black racism against the black Choctaw member. I would love to see that actually in Oklahoma. Maybe talk to some of these black Choctaw. She said, oh yeah, you got to do it, man. It is fast. There's so much information and blah, 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 blah. She said, we'd love to come on the program, talk about all this, blah, blah, blah. I said, man, someone who had a huge influence on me, they were born in Muskogee, Oklahoma. You know anything about Muskogee? She said, oh man, I lived in Muskogee for 20 years. Neely Fuller Jr.
Sometimes you get those messages. Really, that's when Muskogee would have never meant anything to me if I hadn't, he said, oh, yeah, I grew up in Muskogee. And we had talked about that because Oklahoma is so prominently featured in James Lowen's book, Sundown Towns. Again, reading is more important than watching television, even documentaries. So that was spectacular. I'm so looking forward to learn, see if we can get them as guests on the program, maybe going to Oklahoma. Far down the road, that's another place I would not be interested in going. So that was Drowned Land. The next, I said I had to shuffle off. So next, I went to a shorts segment, and this is, they just show a big barrage of short films. I think it was like 5 or 6 of them. I have to pull up the list to see them all. Wow. Every single one dealt with racism, white supremacy in some way, shape, form. The first one was I Could Dom, about an obese white woman who I guess feels sexually awkward or inadequate, vulnerable, and she's going to be, they do the BDS and black leather Welsing moment and whip and beat somebody and all that. Dr. Welsing talked about all of that. Isis Favor, she talked about all of that. But they also, for the double whammy, the film starts and they have a black female who's sitting there. She talks about how comfortable she is dominating and being, and she's a very highly melanated black female, and she insists on paying the check. She's with a group of white women. She insists on paying the check because I guess she's got her dude fella in control. I don't know if it's a black dude or what, but she's got him in control. She has easy money to bend because she's so empowered. So they say the black female is super sexual, hyper sexualized. So of course I got money because I use my sexual authority. And that's how the movie starts and ends, with her paying for their lunch for an outing. And then they had, let's see, Little Miami. That's a film about a white woman. I think she's French. She goes to Miami, Little Haiti specifically, with a portrait of a black dude, an older black dude. She doesn't know who it is. She's trying to identify this person. A teenage black guy volunteers to help her for $50. She says, okay, so they're riding around on his scooter, which is kind of sexual a little bit because she's got to hold him around the waist and everything. So they're riding around on his scooter around Little Haiti, in Miami, Little Haiti in Florida. They're riding around trying to find out who this guy is in the portrait, and they actually find this guy. And so it turns out this white woman, her white son, has died, but before his death, he painted this portrait of this black dude. Black dude, turns out, painted a portrait of her white son, and so he gives it. They trade. She gives him the portrait that her son made of the older black dude. The black dude gives her the portrait that he made of her white son, and she is so touched and thrilled. And the black child who helped her in all this, ride around on the scooter and everything, who was going to get $50, he's so thankful that he has helped this white woman that he refuses to take the $50, and the film ends with the white woman tearfully remembering her dead white son. Our role is to help white people, us being the black people, non-white people. They had another one. I forgot the title of it. It was about so-called cowbell, so-called native person being on an interracial date with a white woman, where all of these white people, of course, say that I'm native. I've got Cherokee grandmother or great-grandmother or uncle or whatever it is, but they all say, and they take DNA tests to prove it, and it just gets so tacky as you can expect. I'm trying to think. They were so, the whole reason that I went to see the shorts, the press for the Seattle International Film Festival told me about the film Styles. That's why I played Sir Mix-a-Lot at the beginning. It is about Seattle basketball, featuring lots and lots of black people. Say, we got to do something about these Negras. What are we going to do with these Negro boys in particular? What are we going to do with these Negro boys? Oh, my goodness. And so they feature a lot of the prominent basketball stars that have come out of Seattle. I don't know if people know this around the world, but Seattle apparently is a thriving area for basketball. Jason Terry and Jamal Crawford. These are guys black males who've played in the NBA, some of them very recently. Paulo Banchero, who I thought was overseas, right here in Seattle, and very recently was just in the NBA. In fact, was just playing in the playoffs this year and playing very, very well in the playoffs this year. But all of those people that I just mentioned are in the documentary, and then they talk about some of the other Seattle legendary basketball players who have been born and honed their skills right here in the good old Seattle. Some of them like literally blocks from where I'm sitting at right now. And they had Sir Mix-a-Lot in the film, and him talking about the genesis of some of these basketball programs and how he helped out and all that. Sir Mix-a-Lot's been in the Seattle area for a long time, but that was, kind of wild. And then again, it seems like for the presentation of black males, even though they do have black females, white people, non-black females as well on some of these teams, but it's the coaches are black dudes. Sir Mix-a-Lot obviously is a black dude. The players that have gone on to the NBA to be very prominent were all black males. So it's a strong black male influence. That's one of the few times, and it's bad. We got to play bad. You got to have a mean jump shot or use slang, crack, rock, fentanyl, but it's few options for the privileged black dude. They had one of the film, I believe it was a French film, could have been Haitian, but it was about a black dude, and he was with his daughter, which I so loved. They're out fishing. I think it was in France. His daughter is somehow infatuated with mermaids, and the dad gets frustrated and wishes that all the mermaids would go away. And his daughter gets so frustrated and angry, and they wake up the next day, and all of these black people are dead, which I'm stunned because I'm thinking the mermaids are going to be blonde hair and all that, and it turns out the mermaids in this film are black. Whoa! I was stunned, but then I said again, uh-oh, who is to blame for all of the black mermaids being the no-count black male? Can't do nothing right. Can't do nothing right but shoot the basketball. And the last film that I saw, 40 Acres. J.T. Thorne, black male. This film is Canadian. I had already seen this film. Knew that it was great.
Lead actress and executive director Danielle Deadweiler.
But lots of people are big fans of her work. I believe she was in Till. I did not see Till, about Emmett Till, already mentioned. But this film which really tripped me about, this film is about racist cannibals. Now, it's set in the future, what they call one of those sci-fi dystopian films where there has been some sort of plague that has disrupted the food supply, which led to some sort of so-called civil war in the U.S., which seemed like a race war. And so our protagonists in this film have moved to Canada, predominantly black family that has moved to Canada. I have to even come back again, black male representation, and because they mentioned Octavia Butler within the first 5 minutes of this movie, I am familiar with Octavia Butler. We read Kindred in the Catholic War, in the book club. But I am reminded Octavia Butler, who passed away right here in Seattle, Pacific Northwest, she said that she was trying to make the main character in Kindred, Dana, black female who goes back in time, she was trying to make that character a black dude. She could not. She said she could not create a story where it is a black dude who goes back in time on a plantation where he does not die immediately. It would have been no story. So she had to change it to a black female. That's what I thought the second time around when I watched this, because I knew they were going to mention Octavia Butler, and we got a black female lead in this film, and a black female lead whose partner is a non-white, non-black male. I said, wow, we can't have a black male lead. We can't even have a black couple. Can't even be her paired up with a black dude. No way. She's with a proud native indigenous male who has on lots of shirts with proud indigenous folks, and he speaks his indigenous language, hopefully not Choctaw, but that's her partner throughout this film, which is even interesting in and of itself. And I thought, wow, could this film be led where you have counter-violence, where it was a black male leading all of this? I doubt it. Anyway, so This film starts immediately with black people killing white people who have invaded their farm. And it's called 40 Acres, so there are lots of scenes of black people growing corn, vegetables, harvesting corn, fruits, produce, eating healthy foods that I would eat. Vegan produce, squash, and that's one of the things, like really healthy stews and potatoes and yams. Like, hey, I could sit down, get me a plate of that. That looks pretty good. Let me get to, they got fresh herbs and everything. Anyway, what fascinated me watching it this time around is, I swear, I have heard people talking about this film. I think the fellow, when he introduced the film, because at the film festivals, they don't just start rolling. They have some generally white person, not always, I'll take that back, but they generally will have a person or two get up and talk about the film. Sometimes the filmmaker will be there too, and they'll get up and say something. But they'll come up, they'll talk for 5 minutes or so, and then they'll sit down. We watch the movie. So that happened for 40 Acres. I think the white fellow who introduced 40 Acres, I think he said racist cannibals. And I think I've seen other outlets where they say racist cannibals. So I had to stop and pause and say, now, wait a minute. What exactly did they do or say to prompt everyone to say that these are racist cannibals? 'Cause, I mean, what films do they do that? Where they identify characters or a whole group as race? I mean, they don't have like swastikas. You know, they're not calling people niggers and that. Like, what exactly is the signifier that, oh yeah, these are some racist white dudes out to chomp on these black people? And so I'm really locked in, like paying attention. Did they say something? Like, see something? Like, what is? I get all the way through the film, so now I've seen it twice. I didn't hear anything. No nigger, no nothing. So the film ends, and I say, did I make this up? Maybe they didn't say that these were racist cannibals. Maybe they just said they were cannibals. So I asked the fellow behind me, I said, sir, did you think that these were racist cannibals? He said, oh, no. I think it went beyond that. He said, I think that's kind of implied, but I think the story kind of goes beyond that and just kind of a general breakdown of society and how people respond. I said, oh, okay. I go outside, and there's a group of like 4 people. 2 of them, to me, clearly look like they are not white, clearly. There's a female who I think is white, and there's another male who's kind of ambiguous. So I go to them, and I don't talk to people. I'm curmudgeon, you know. And this 40 Acres, this film showed at like 9 p.m. On a Friday night in downtown, and I mean downtown Seattle, like next to what they call the ghetto McDonald's downtown on 3rd and Pike. Man, I hate being downtown. Like, oh my God, I hate being down there at all, and especially that late at night. Like, Jesus Christ, you're taking your life in your hands. You might as well go knock on a stranger's door at 11 o'clock at night. Anyway, so I go up to but I'm saying, hey, well, I'm at the film festival, and you know, it's good to talk. You're at the festival. That's why you go to the movies. You can see what other people think and all that. So I say, excuse me, I'm not here to rape anybody, but did you all just see 40 Acres? They said, oh, yeah, I saw it. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Did you all think that the cannibals were racist? They said, oh, yeah. I said, did they say anything? Or I think I just said, why? Why did you think the cannibals are racist? I said, well, they had the fatigues on. They looked just like the January 6ers who invaded the Capitol. Now, that implies that the January 6ers, Enrique, we miss you, my brother, that implies that the January 6ers are also racist. Rachel Powell, Ashley Babbitt. He said they look just like they got the fatigues on and they look just like folks who stormed the Capitol, you know. And then they're attacking all of these non-white people, you see. And then all the non-white people, they're growing produce. See, they got corn and beans and taters, and they're eating foods of the earth. You got these white people. They are eating, and literally sometimes they are chomping folks before they're dead. They don't even kill them sometimes. They just try and get them reasonably tied down, and they get the delectable Negro. And they said it's implied in some of the way. So they said even the Civil War that they had, and the family here that's led by Miss Deadwilder, the family is called the Freedmans. The Freedmans, which that just came up in Drowned Land. Freedmans, see? And so there's so many ways they say that this, you know, it is racist, that the cannibals are racist. That's what this is. They're attacking them, even though they don't say it directly, but so much of it is implied. I even thought the fact that, and she said the clothing too. She said it was a lot about the clothing. She said they very much had that kind of like militia member, armed, clannish kind of look to them. And she said that's kind of how they look. I said, okay, I can get that. Okay, and phenotypically, it wasn't a whole lot of dark people. Miss Deadwilder is very dark complexion. They didn't have no whole lot of dark complexion O.J. Simpson people in the Cannibal group, and they are hanging people. Okay, and you see this graphically. They kill the people and they hang them to bleed them out. So you get, I guess the one visualization is like the delectable Negro, so like the butcher. So you can imagine like a whole cow or something, and they've got it on the meat hook in a meat locker, that type of thing. And then the lynching of the Negro, castration, all of that. They say we hang them to bleed them out. That way the flesh doesn't rot and we can enjoy our kill. Like I said, they don't even do all that sometimes. Before they even get you dead, your heart's still pumping and you're fighting back and they're snacking already. So that one kind of messed with me a little bit, and I even ended up talking to them quite a bit once we started raising this, because they were asking me what stood out, and I told them, I said, man, because they mentioned Octavia Butler, and I guess that would even go to the racial component too, because Octavia Butler's work, so much of it is about racism, and they mentioned, and the plight of black people specifically, and they mentioned Octavia Butler like immediately in the first 5 minutes of the film, and then they come back and bring her up again. So I mean, you even get a callback, like, oh man, they love to Octavia Butler, Parable of the Sower, which is about black people burning up in the future California, which did happen this year. But I told them about Octavia Butler wanting to make the main character in Kindred a black dude, but she couldn't, and then they couldn't have a black dude as a main character here either. Even I would say we didn't really have no black dudes as main characters in the films that I saw today, really, at all, except the short. The only film that I can think of where the black dudes were the main characters was the short about basketball in Seattle. And the black dude, the French film where the black dude killed all the black mermaids and his daughter hated him. Those are the only films that I saw where black dudes are the lead. And I even, the film from last year, Sing Sing, where the black dude was the lead as black dudes in prison. Just saying. Black male privilege. Anyway, it's probably lots more I could say about 40 Acres. Really, all of these films. I hadn't initially planned on doing a quick broadcast to go over some of what I saw, but just racism is everything. You cannot be classified as white and be ignorant about racism. You can't go sit through a film like 40 Acres. You can't go sit through a film like Drowned Land. You can't go sit through any of the shorts, because I just told you all of the shorts were about racism, directly, indirectly, one way or another. Even that film where the black dad kills all the black mermaids, he is poorly running a restaurant, and a white couple comes by and they're going to eat, and they see old Leroy sitting there with his daughter and say, we'll eat it. Wait a minute, is Leroy? Oh, Lord. And they turn around and leave it. Leroy's like, wait a minute, don't leave. I wash my hands. Wait a minute, it's clean. Wait a minute. Yeah. They don't come back. Black male privilege. Any hoodles, just quick snippet. Reading is more important, but always look forward to asking questions at these festivals, and maybe even being able to talk to people to a degree about race. That is, like I said, I'm not really a social person like that. I don't look to spread my social wings at no film event either. I generally just want to sit to myself, watch the film, take notes, and proceed. But we will get at it. I don't know if I'll do these little updates every day. Have to see how it goes with time and energy, and even how appealing the films are. The films that I saw today were very, very interesting, and I saw so many with the shorts and then the feature films. It was 4, but it was kind of like more because of all those shorts. So lots to see on the first day. More to come tomorrow. Seeing something every day. I'll give updates as we proceed. And then looming in the background, murder trial for Sade C. Robinson. Share the content. Let folks know if you think it is constructive. We are on Apple Podcast, Podbean, Podchaser, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. No compensatory call-in on Saturday. We will get back at least to a regular broadcast schedule once I get to Wisconsin, because I'll be broadcasting about the trial. But things will be a little disrupted for the other programs for the next few weeks, just as I'm going through the film festival and then prepping to cover the trial. So bear with us. Hopefully it'll be constructive through the next few weeks. Always, you can drop an email, untiljustice@gmail.com, if you have questions, thoughts, concerns, all that good stuff. And then check social media, X, Facebook, all that. I do update throughout the festival, thoughts, things that I see at the festival. If I get to ask questions, things that I learn, I make updates throughout. Hopefully this time I'll be able to write as I go. With that said, stay constructive, maybe read something, and I will check in again with updates from the 51st Annual Seattle International Film Festival and my counter-racist views. Sobriety would be best, even at the film festival. Invest if you think the C.O.W.S is constructive. Hit the blog, racism-notes.blogspot.com. racism-notes.blogspot.com. PayPal button in the top right corner. Much obliged to all the folks who have invested and kept us on the air for 16 years, and the folks who are making it possible for us to get to Milwaukee. Pray for a brother. Creator, remind us to maximize our time and energy to replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Help us refrain from wasting non-white people's time and energy, especially our own. Stop name-calling black people. Stop gossiping. Stop producing throwaway offspring. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cow signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed.
I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
Yeah. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Even my conditioning has been conditioned.